Alright guys, welcome back to VALORANT News. Big results going down around the world of VALORANT yesterday, and Sentinels might well be back in business. Yes, they played FURIA, a rather challenging team to lose to, it seems right now, who have been getting bodied week in, week out, but the manner of their victory was nonetheless impressive. Maybe put Sen right back on the right track, going towards the playoffs and the World Championship. Lots of other drama as well elsewhere. Very much enjoyed your thoughts in the comments. Hit the like button if you enjoy. Subscribe if you're new as always. I would greatly appreciate it. Plenty to start with, and we're going to start here. So we know that TENS is out there, so they're running this T1 home ground, and TENS is there doing some signings. And what's pretty funny is some of the players turned up here to get TENS' signature. So I thought it was actually really kind of cool to see. And as we see a couple of pictures going down at the moment here, so TENS was kind of mind blown to see the boys turning up for the meet and greet, and to see Meteor and X-Curate and Itsu turn up to get TENS' signature. Thought that was all really rather cool, and it belonged on the thumbnail. Now, before we get to these matches, because it is really the talk of the day, this is pretty funny. So they're doing a tri-cast, so for the talent matches tonight and tomorrow. So for the 100 Thieves versus Crew game, it's going to be Uber, Van, Silly, Babybay. So pretty crazy, right? And okay, Valid's hopping on as well for C9 versus EG, but it's just kind of funny to see that Babybay and Valid really. But and I know that they were already qualified for the World Championship, so I guess there's not too much for them to worry about, because okay, it's not the end of the world. It's just kind of strange to see active players hop in this scenario. I think it's especially funny for Babybay just because he just came from the analyst desk. He's stepped into G2, and obviously they won yesterday, and we'll see in a second. And then he's back on the, back on the talent. So you got to respect it, I suppose. This guy's doing it all right now. Let's go to China and see what happened yesterday. So Edward Gaming, they turned up with Gen.G back in the team. They seemingly have got rid of ZJC again, and they brought Gen.G back in. Is this really the play? I'm not so convinced. I think they will have to consider other options at some point very soon. But who knows, right? When a team is messing around to this extent, they're just compromised, and there's just no way that a compromised team to that extent will have the success that they probably need to have to keep this team together next year. That's just my opinion. But they played a Corona and won it 13-10 on Tyler's pick, and then they won the Ascent 13-9. So they got the job done in the end. Edward Gaming stay alive in the Chinese region. Nova Esports went down to All Gamers as well. Can you believe it? All Gamers and Shrimp finally putting some wins on the board. The Haven was 13-10 to Nova. But in fair play to All Gamers, they bounced back on the Corona. They won this one 13-9, and then the Lotus was 13-6. They won the decider. So absolute scene to AG, because we know that they've been struggling for a very long time. And if we look at their matches, right, look at all these losses, and then finally they got a win against Wolves. Now they've actually backed it up with a win against Nova, so that makes the standings over there a little bit interesting right now. There's some other games coming up as well. Actually, as of recording this video, we are probably about to see this series get underway. So yeah, TC versus JDG is underway. That's 5-5. But the point is that if we look at the group plays right here in the group stages, we've got Billy at 3-0, Edward now at 2-1 with Trace Esports. So Group A is looking relatively clear cut, but All Gamers at 2-2, right? AG at 2-2, Nova at 0-3, Wolves at 0-3. It makes it very difficult for Wolves, because even if they do make a bit of a comeback to 2-3 or whatever, then they would still lose the head-to-head against All Gamers, right? So yeah, it's a big one for Wolves to try and make it to the playoffs and give themselves a chance of qualifying, as we know, for the World Championship. In the Pacific, things were getting pretty spicy as well. Gen.G did get the win in the end against Global Esports. It went to that Corona, and yeah, G went up 2-0, but after that it very much backfired, and it was a 13-7 to Gen.G in the end. So pretty competitive. G are definitely getting better, but not good enough to take down Gen.G for now. Talon then lost to DFM, so we are starting to see some success in that Japanese region. Interesting really, because when Primi came in for Talon, there was so much talk about his potential and the talent, and that's undeniably still there. But we just haven't really talked about it for months at this point, because the team has been just struggling to deliver consistent results. And going down in this way to DFM is not the kind of result you'd expect. Talon do win the Corrode though with a mega defensive side, no real surprises there. And then the Iceboxer we know is going to get removed from the pool relatively shortly. That was a 13-8 to DFM, so they get the job done there. Now, speaking of the Pacific, because there's another game underway today, this is what's going on out there, right? So the T1 home grounds, where we know TENS is all set up, and because T1 playing today in this big arena for these matches, you know, we had some really cool moments here actually, and it's mega to see the level of interest and support that they have here. And yeah, the Pacific getting underway as a result. And well, let me just hit the refresh on this because it's T1 versus Zeta Division, and on the Sunset they won the Corrode 13-8, and the Sunset is now 9-4. So it's looking pretty good for T1 and Stacks to get that victory there in front of the home crowd. And just to quickly look how it therefore is looking in the Pacific, and after that game happens, we have the other one, which is RRQ versus Nongshim going on today. But yeah, T1 look like they're going to get that victory without too much difficulty there, and they're keeping that group very spicy indeed. I mean, with DFM now at 2-1, it's looking pretty clear who the losers of that group are potentially going to turn out to be. Let's talk Europe. Vitality finally did it. They got a win on the board, and it was an emphatic win at that. They took down FURIA Esports in, well, it was kind of comedy, really, because on the map 1, Mr. Fallen had, he just kept on falling, maybe. He was 0-14, which you're not going to see every day. Someone drop a donut across 15 maps of Haven, and it was FURIA Esports' pick as well. So, yeah, it does seem like, I don't know what it is really, but with Anna Kaplan gone, and then CNED coming in, I don't know if FURIA Esports are just mentally broken or exactly what's happened here, but Vitality, who also seem to be pretty broken, they beat them 13-2, 13-5. It was an absolute demolition job. Fair play to Mr. Follow. He actually bounced back with a 12-13 on the game too to actually have a positive rating. So his overall series numbers weren't so bad, but I mean, yeah, 0.03 rating, you got to respect it. Like, that is some dedication to the craft. Durka says, look, we actually finally got a win. So maybe Vitality are on the right track again, but it's, I think, far too early to say that for sure. And then we had Fnatic Movistar. Now, Fnatic, their most recent series, have not been as clean as maybe they would like, but in the end, when it was 12-11, Alpha just decides to come up with a pretty disgusting 4K, and there's not much you're going to be able to do about that. So Fnatic eventually get the 2-0 win. They won the Ascent 13-7. The Haven, as we say, was very close. It was on Koi's pick, but eventually it went 13-11. So, you know, Fnatic, they keep the momentum rolling. They get through the series, and the way that a bracket looks right now is as follows, because, yeah, with the 2-0 win, they're now 2-0. Obviously, no worries for that team, but Vitality bouncing back at 1-1, and, you know, they'll be happy with the result because it puts their round count so in the positive that may become critical for them as time goes on. But let's talk about the Americas, because things were getting real tasty yesterday, and G2, they had another series on their hands. This time, of course, with Babybay again, and as time goes on, maybe they're only expected to get better, but despite the fact that 2G, if you look at their scrim results in the last few weeks, it would make you believe they're maybe a little bit better of a team. But, you know, maybe not quite yet, because they got absolutely smashed by G2. Babybay on the Chamber at times as well. On the Ascent, we saw him on the Chamber 15-14. Jorgamo 22-12. So, you know, they pretty much handled business there. And then the Haven was a bloodbath, really. 13-5 in the end. Valen this time turned up on the Omen. So, pretty cool to see from G2, right? Babybay comes in. They're starting to get the results and starting to look like a pretty serious threat. As Babybay says, you know, Schmieg 2-0 against 2G. They had some scary, thrifty plays. My team is actually insane carrying me. So, you know, pretty cool to see. I don't know how far they can go with Babybay, and obviously, as yet, we don't have any rumours as to when Leaf is going to return and whether it's going to be in time for those guys for the playoffs or potentially for the World Championship as well. Sentinels, though, they were in action too, and they were playing FURIA. And we know that FURIA are struggling lately, but, I mean, even so, to lose like this is pretty crazy. And this does not happen in the Americas very often. It's actually only happened twice in the history of the Americas League. Even if you go back to like 2022 pre-franchising, it only happened like, you know, one more time on that occasion as well. So this is Zelsis on the icebox, opening things up with the Sheriff. Nice little 1 versus 2 here. And this was really a sign of things to come. Look, at the end of the day, if he doesn't get this round win, then they don't win the map in the way that they do. But Zelsis gets a nice little 1 versus 2 there. Similarly broke the back of FURIA, and all of a sudden, they win 12 straight offensive rounds. FURIA's mental was completely compromised, and they go down 2-0 in an absolute demolition job. It was 14, or it was 13-4. Game 1, even FURIA won the pistol and converted it, and after that, they got slammed. And then the icebox was a 13-0. I mean, Narrate, Zelsis, they were all having a good time here, stat panning on the second map of the series. So we know that FURIA are bad. bad. Our expectations were low, but our expectations, weren't even maybe that low, right? Like, not even win a round is pretty crazy. And Sentinels look like they're on a pretty good spot. Now, it has happened before, right? Like 13-0s since 2023. I think it was, well, we've seen it on Icebox, but on Pearl a couple of years ago, EG versus Loud, I think EG even tweeted about it, and they said, yeah, since 2023, that's the first 13-0. So, EG just kind of pointing it out that, a little while ago, they were involved in that situation. And as a result, there's been talk as to like, damn, FURIA are so bad. What's going to happen next? Because we know that the franchise contracts, they get renewed for 2027. So as it stands, FURIA are still here for another season, although every iteration of every roster they've put together has almost always been terrible. And there is a big talk that, maybe an organization like Envy could come in and actually deliver something pretty good. But I don't know if that's going to happen yet, despite the fact that FURIA, whatever they do, are in an absolute downhill spiral. As Bang says, look, we're looking clean, good result for Sentinels to build up some confidence, maybe again, going into the run to the playoffs. And yeah, they've obviously got to beat FURIA. But the way that they beat them with a 13-0 for the first time in the Americas in a couple of years is still pretty impressive. 100 T-Play Crew, NRG play Loud tonight, two just crucial games. I mean, 100T versus Crew is so critical to see if Crew can make the run that they tend to do towards the World Championship. Championship points very much so on the line as always. FNS giving his support to FURIA, but I'm not sure it's going to make all that much difference. So very much enjoyed your thoughts on all of this stuff in the comment section below. Hit the like button if you enjoyed. Subscribe if you're new. Take care, and I'll see you next time.